Hey, how's it going? Seth here. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can register your LLC business entity. Now, before we get into this, I'll just say I'm not an attorney. Nothing in this video should be considered legal advice, but I am an active real estate investor and I own several different LLCs for different businesses. So I kind of know my way around this process, how to do it, and why it's important. Now, the thing about starting a new LLC is that most states do not make this process easy, especially if you're someone who has never done this before. It can feel kind of confusing and intimidating if you don't know your way around the registration process and the documentation in your state. The good news is there are several online services out there that have made this process much easier than your state will. That's what I'm going to show you in this video, and the website we're going to use is called Tailor Brands. We actually have an affiliate link to this website if you want to follow along with what I'm doing. It's retipster.com/LLC, or you can find a link directly to that page right beneath this video. And also, you don't have to register an LLC specifically. There are several different types of business entities that may make sense in different situations. I'm coming at this from the perspective of a real estate investor. This is what I did back when I started my real estate investing business, flipping land. And if I had to start everything over today from scratch, I would do the same thing, which is what I'm about to show you right here. Also, keep in mind, as we go through this process, there's several different questions we have to answer. I'm going to answer those questions from my perspective, from my location, my life, my business, everything as it relates to me. As you're going through this process, you don't necessarily want to copy every single thing I'm doing here. Just think about it through your perspective and the lens of your life and what matters and is relevant to you. So let's jump into the computer and get started. So when you click that link, it's going to take you to a page that looks something like this. If you're watching this years into the future, it might look a little bit different. It's pretty easy to get started. All you have to do is start by selecting the state that you want to register your LLC in. And again, I'm not an attorney. I don't want to give you legal advice on this, but when I do this process, I just think through this perspective of where am I going to be doing business? Like, where is most of my business activity going to happen? Say if I'm buying a bunch of properties, where do I think my properties are going to be located, or where will most of them be? And I would probably select that state. So back when I got started, I was focusing on Michigan specifically. That's also where I happen to live. So I'm going to pick Michigan. But if you're going to be doing California or Arizona or Florida, wherever, just pick the state that's most relevant to you. So I'm going to go down here and select Michigan, and then I'll click Get Started. So the next step here is to choose your business name. Now, there's a little bit of branding that comes in here if you want to be known by a specific name, but whatever name you pick here, it doesn't necessarily have to be the business name that you're known by. What you could do is register for a DBA or a doing business as or assumed name after the fact, and I actually have a separate video explaining exactly how to do that. I'll link to it beneath this video. But one thing that is true in pretty much every state is that you can't pick a name that somebody else is already using in that state. I actually ran into this a number of times with the first couple LLCs I was registering, is that all the names I wanted to use, somebody else was already using them. So you'll have to be a little bit creative here in picking a name that isn't already being used by somebody else. If you're having a hard time thinking of the right business name, something like ChatGPT or Claude or one of these AI chatbots can actually be really helpful for this. Again, I have another video explaining how to do that, but you really just want to pick a name and get started. I'm going to say XYZ Properties LLC. I wouldn't get too hung up on this. I would mainly just try not to pick a name that's going to paint yourself into a corner. Like, for example, Seth's painting business. I wouldn't pick a name like that if I'm going to be selling hamburgers. You know, that's something that has nothing to do with it. So try to keep it generic, if anything. So I'm just going to say XYZ Properties. That could be any type of property. It could be for buying or selling. It's fairly generic, but it is related to real estate in this example. The nice thing about Tailor Brands is that it actually allows you to check the availability right from here. So let's give this a shot. Oh, looks like I don't have to put the LLC in there, just XYZ Properties. So it looks like that's apparently available. So let's go ahead and click next. Now it's saying, what stage is XYZ Properties currently in? So if I'm pretending that I'm starting over from scratch, I'm going to say that this is about to launch. I know what I'm going to do. I'm ready to go. I just need to launch it. So we'll click next here. And then when are you planning to launch XYZ Properties? We'll say as soon as possible. And then what is the industry? So mine is real estate. Type that in here. And real estate investment is the most applicable option there. And then does this offer physical goods or professional services? So neither one of those things necessarily classifies what I do. So I'm going to say wholesalers of real estate. Move forward with that. Then are you planning to hire employees in the upcoming year? I'm not sure yet. Click next. Have you set an annual income goal for your business? So I'm going to say, I don't know yet, because who knows? Maybe this will take off and be huge. Maybe it'll just kind of start slow. I don't know. And then where will XYZ properties operate from? So this brings up another subject. Whenever you start a new business like this, I think it's always a good idea to have your own dedicated either PO box or rented mailbox somewhere as your business address, someplace that is not your home address, especially when you're doing what I do, when you're contacting thousands of people and making offers to buy properties. I don't necessarily want those people finding out where I live and coming and knocking on my door. I want to have a separate business address just to provide some separation and privacy there. So if you don't have a business address yet, there's a bunch of services you can use for this. You can either find a local UPS store or pack mail, some kind of retail mail storefront and rent a mailbox there, or you could use something like traveling mailbox, which is what I recommend for a lot of people because you can do it all virtually online and it's pretty handy. I've got a separate video explaining how that works. I'll link to that beneath this video as well if you want to check it out. In my case, I already have one of these rented mailboxes and I'm going to put the zip code where that one is located. And then where will XYZ properties serve customers? That's a good question. I guess in my case, it will probably be more online than anything because that's usually where people will find my properties for sale and, find me in the first place, depending on how I market myself. So I'll say online. And then what else are you planning to do for your business? So this is where Tailor Brands is going to try to make more money from you if they can. I actually have other places that I recommend for things like your logo, your domain, your EIN is actually free to get. Again, I have a separate video explaining how to do that. I'll link to that beneath this video if you want to check that out. Websites, I have a few other places I recommend to do that. So I wouldn't worry about any of this other stuff personally. I would just move forward with the LLC. And then what did you already do for XYZ properties? So at this point, this is like the first thing I'm doing. So I'm just going to say none of the above, move forward, and then learn to run a successful business. Looks like some kind of coaching. Don't need that. Let's say no thanks. And then fill out information for XYZ properties. So this is where I would put my first and last name and phone number. Pretty self-explanatory. And then get your EIN to open a business bank account. Again, I've got a separate video explaining how to do that. You don't need to pay for this here. So I'll say I'll handle it myself. Save myself 99 bucks, and then assign your registered agent as required in Michigan. So a registered agent can either be you, or in my case, it could be me for my own LLC, meaning I would be the person responsible if anybody needs to contact the owner of that LLC for anything, or fill out paperwork, or send in annual registrations, any of that stuff. That could be me, or it could be somebody that you hire, like an attorney or your accountant, or one of these registered agent services. In a lot of states, having a registered agent can sort of give you some privacy protection because if somebody tries to look up the name of your LLC, they're not going to see your name. They're going to see the name of your registered agent. So it's kind of up to you. But if you don't have a registered agent, just make sure that you're going to be available and responsive if anybody has questions about your LLC, which is not that often. It's not a huge job to do this. So I'm going to say I'll appoint a different registered agent. And then moving on, keep your good standing status in Michigan with our annual compliance. So every single year, your LLC has to stay in good standing by sending in a annual renewal with a little fee just to tell the state, hey, I'm still here, I still exist. Keep me in good standing. And this actually is important. It does need to be done. You can either do it yourself, or again, you can hire a service like Tailor Brands to do this for you. I think in the state of Michigan, what is it, like 50 bucks a year is the annual fee. And it's just a matter of the state is going to send me a little form that I have to fill out and then send it in with a check or pay for it online. And then I'm done. So I could add another $199 per year to that cost and then just not even think about it. I would have the luxury of letting them do it, or I could just pay attention and do this myself. So I'm going to select this. You can make your own decision on that. And then elevate your professional image with the branding toolkit. I'm going to say no and move next. And then skip the line and form your Michigan LLC even faster. Looks like you can pay an extra 49 bucks and do it in 2 days, or I could wait 14 days and not pay anything extra. So I'm going to select that one just because I'm cheap. But if you're in a mad rush and you have to get this done right now, there you go. You have that expedited option if you want it. And click next again. Establish your LLC rules with an operating agreement. So an operating agreement is something that you will need if and whenever you want to go and get a bank loan or anything like that. It's basically the document that specifies who is the owner of this LLC, who has the authority and control to make decisions on behalf of the LLC. In my case, this is just a single member LLC. It's just me. So this is a super simple document. I mean, it could be like literally one page, but if you have like a super complex company with like 10 different owners and everybody's responsible for different things, then it can be a fairly complex document. And in that case, I don't even know if I would use something like this. I'd probably go to an attorney to spell that stuff out. It's up to you. If you want to do this now, you could. If you don't want to do this, I do have a separate video explaining how to do this with a service called Rocket Lawyer. There's a bunch of online services that are happy to take your money to do this for you. But anyway, that's what the operating agreement is. And you can either do it now or do it later. At this stage of the process, this is not a vital thing that has to get done. But eventually it's probably something you'll want to create. I'm going to say I'll figure this out myself and click next. And then I don't need this stuff. And if I want to get notified about status updates, I could click this, but I think I'm just going to say no thanks for now and click next. And at this point, you can pick which plan you're going to choose. And at first, when I saw this, I was like, what? You can form your LLC for $0? How's that even possible? And there are some gotchas in this, I think, because you will still have to pay the state fee, which is required, which is mentioned right down here. So it's actually $50, not $0. And also, as you've already seen through this process, Tailor Brands has all kinds of different ways to make money from you if you want to use their services. So I think what they're betting on is that, hey, if you do this for free, hopefully we'll be able to sell you on something else in the future. And, you know, maybe that's useful to you, maybe not. But if you want this bare bones plan, you could do this annual compliance and registered agent, if I were to do that as a separate charge anyway. And I think the one that I would most likely do is probably the registered agent, if one of these. But again, it's up to you to choose what you want to do. And I'll go ahead and continue to payment. And you can pay however you want to do that and move on to the next step. And it will take them probably no more than 14 days to get the job done. Or if you want to expedite it, you could do it in 2 days. That's the process. As you can see, it was super easy, not difficult at all. Now, this is not necessarily the end. Another thing that you have to do is this BOI e-filing that you have to do whenever you start a new LLC, just to let the federal government know who you are and that you control this particular LLC. So it's not hard at all. Just follow the prompts and go through it. It doesn't cost anything to do this, but I'll include a link to this. And also, if you're running a property flipping business like I do, there are some branding things you'll want to think about in terms of setting up a DBA for this LLC. And again, I have a separate video explaining all about how that works and how I think through that process. So be sure to check out that video too. And again, if this seemed easy enough to do, I'll have an affiliate link to Tailor Brands beneath this video. You can click through that and do exactly what I just showed you. Thanks again for watching. Talk to you next time.